I want to say something about some of the people that I admire in our struggle. I'm going to start with Justice Nyong'o. You see, when I left Bambili, I went to Yaoundé the following year. Then the following year, I was going to move to. I was going to leave the country. My family has already decided that I will not go back to Yaoundé, and I spent that year out of school, but I went to teach in Bali. And I met Justice Nyong'o. He came down and we had a staff meeting, and he was part of that staff meeting. And after the staff meeting, he invited me to visit him when I went to Bamenda. And when I went, I visited him. He gave me. This is a man who respects even the youngest. As young as I was and as big as he was, he gave me a lot of respect. He gave me a dedicated time in his back office, and we just had conversation. I felt very honored because, young as I was and up there as he was, I didn't think anybody would give me that kind of time. And so I admire that man a lot. But the important thing that he did that was a life changer for me was that when he gave me a ride back to town. And as we're driving back, I remember him telling me, I heard him tell me that we are living in this country, meaning in southern Cameroon, in Ambazonia, as a colonized people. That the people of La Republique are treating us as a colonized people. I was shocked. I was shocked when I heard that. Because I looked at him as a man of the establishment, as part of the people who are enjoying the country, or enjoying and this is after I've already experienced my 1 year in Bali, in Yaoundé. So you can tell. Because there's one thing I didn't tell you about my experience in Yaoundé. As I sat in class and I was hearing all this Chinese, this Greek going over, all this gibberish going over my head in the name of lectures, I kept wondering, how did I find myself in this situation? What did I do wrong? Where did we go wrong? That is when my political instincts got aroused. I blamed the Fonchas, the Endelis, all the politicians that did what they did to find out, to end up with me feeling a foreigner in my own country, or my own supposed country. Okay? So when Justice Nyong'o was expressing the same feeling that I felt when I was in Yaoundé, I had a lot of respect for him. And he became one of us. He became part of me in a way that I did not let go until he died. So that's one of the people I admired. Obviously, you can tell that he was not kidding, because he had that conversation with me. He became part of SDF, part of the opposition. He was arrested. And until he died as a rebel in a system that was not humane to us. I have a lot of respect for him. The other person that I had a lot of respect for was Fru Ndi. When Fru Ndi and the SDF started, I wasn't part of that. I was already out of the country. But I watched videos and I listened to what Fru Ndi was saying at the Bamenda Stadium. It's like, wow, in that terrorized country, that man is saying what he's saying and challenging Paul Biya the way he did. I became a member of the SDF because of that. With time, obviously, Fru Ndi, not too long from then actually, I lost all the respect I had for him. I lost all of it. You know, I'll tell you where I actually lost respect for Fru Ndi. If you go and look, I've made a lot of effort to have all our political leaders on video. Fru Ndi is one of those people I never had a personal interview with him, but I had opportunities. I filmed him in many occasions, but I never granted him that interview. In 1996, I went to Chicago where he came, and I was ready we had all our cameras ready to give him one of those interviews. And I sat in a hotel. At the time, remember, they had what they call, it was Union for Change at the time, where there were a lot of Francophones who were part of SDF and all that mix-up that was going on then. And I sat in a hotel room where Fru Ndi was. Well, he wasn't there, but the hotel room was where we were going to have a meeting. No, where they were staying, and I was going to have this interview with him. And as we sat in that room, the conversation that was going on between these top leaders of the SDF was that they have told the French that they are going to support, or they are going to take care of their interests in La République du Cameroon if the French can let them take power, because they believe that they won the election and they can stand another election and win. So they realized that the French were the obstacle to them taking over power, and so they had met the French and tell them, you know, support us to take over power. And I was so demoralized. I was so demoralized that my cameras did not leave the car. We left. And ever since that, I stopped being a member of the SDF. Because I do believe that we are never going to get our power by begging. We will not. Because the person who is stepping on your toe, they know that they're stepping on your toe. Or the person that is stealing your lunch knows that they're stealing your lunch. And if you think that you're going to tell them not to steal your lunch or not to step on your toe by begging them, you're only telling them to step on your toe more, because you are showing a lot of weakness. I'm more in the mindset of Patrick Henry, which says, give me liberty or give me death. And most of the countries, most of the people who have progressed in this world are people who have said, give me liberty or give me death. They are not people who beg for their liberty. So I was done with the SDF. I was done with the SDF. That's how John Fru Ndi fell off my chart. The other person that I've respected a lot was Gorji Dinka. I went to Washington, D.C. in 1990, and I listened to Siga Asanga and Mr. Mukong give a presentation during one CAMSA meeting. And I listened to them, and I said, these people need to come to Minnesota and talk to our people too. At the time, SDF was just beginning to go, and I had bought their message, hook and sinker. So I sponsored the trip. Dr. Asanga and Mukong were to come to town, I think 2 weeks later. 1 week before they came, the Dr. Sanga called me and said, well, you know, they're sitting here with Gorji Dinka and he wants to come too. At the time, I did not know him. I said, fine. So we just added him on the ticket and they flew to town. And when they flew to town, there was they show. So we organized all our people at the University of Minnesota, and they all came, and there was this presentation, like they did in Washington. The first to speak was Gorji Dinka, and that's when he talked about Ambazonia. I heard about Ambazonia for the first time.
This means when your country, which was then called United Nations Trust Territory of Southern Cameroon under United Kingdom administration. Can you listen? That's how to describe a country. Is that the name of a country? Is that the name of a country? United Nations Trust Territory of Southern Cameroon under United Kingdom administration. That is a whole definition of an area. It's not the name of a country. We are coming to why you are not considered as Cameroonians. This identification by description only determines that you are not. It says that when your country accepts to become a federated state in the Federal Republic of Cameroon, then you acquire the right to become Cameroonian citizens and have Cameroonian nationality. But is your country now a federated state in Federal Republic of Cameroon? Is there a Federal Republic of Cameroon? Is there a Federal Republic of Cameroon? So you acquired Cameroonian nationality only by treaty. And once that treaty is abrogated, you are no longer Cameroonian.
And I listened to that.
Then what are you? Eventually, the brilliant scholar came and decided to proclaim the secession law 84/001 of the 4th of February 1984, by which he formalized the secession of what was East Cameroon into La République du Cameroon. By that secession, as you must have heard the last speaker, it opened the way. You see, God moves in a very mysterious way. As long as Ambazonia was in this dubious thing of United Republic of Cameroon, there was a fiction of unity existing, even though in international law it had collapsed. There may be some of you who have done political science. This is the principle of extinction and creation of states. Let's start it over. From the moment Southern Cameroon, as it was called, as a state, joined the République du Cameroon in forming the Federal Republic of Cameroon, under international law, the two states are extinct and the new state created is created. That is to say, there is a creation of a new state and an extinction of the two states that are created. Now, when the treaty that has brought this together collapses, as it did, the Federal Republic of Cameroon becomes extinct. That state is extinct. And automatically and simultaneously, with that extinction, the original states are resuscitated. These are the principles of international law concerning creation and extinction of states.
And that was so inspirational that when Dr. Siga Sanga spoke and Mr. Mukong spoke, I can tell you, Dr. Gorji Dinka carried the day. All the questioning was focused on this idea of Ambazonia.
Recently, Paul Biya carried a catechism lesson in Boya. He told the people, I am a Cameroonian. And the people shouted after him, I am a Cameroonian. I was born a Cameroonian. The people shouted after him, I was born a Cameroonian. And I will ever remain a Cameroonian. The people shouted, I will ever remain a Cameroonian. Paul Biya did law in Paris. He knows that under international law, you and myself, Ambazonians, are not Cameroonians. And the treaty that gave you Cameroonian nationality has been abrogated. So it was necessary for him to instill into your subconscious the nationality of Cameroonian in order to enable him to rule a country as a colony under the pretext that it is part of Cameroon. Why did he not carry that catechism in the other side? Why didn't he go to Eboluwa and say, I am a Cameroonian or Je suis Camerounais? Let us hear. Because the people are Cameroonians under international law. But you who are not Cameroonians must be made to believe that you are Cameroonians, and you are believing that you are Cameroonians, and as a result, you are even participating in the institutions of the Republic of Cameroon, as if you are like what you are is that Cameroon Outre-mer, Cameroon overseas. I mean, they themselves call you Cameroon Outre-Mongo. That's what they call you. Why must your own Cameroon be qualified? It is because you are not Cameroonians.
Some of you have seen some of the video. You've seen some of the clips, and but what that did for me, was that was the first time. That was the first time I saw an Ambazonian, a Southern Cameroonian, stand and speak with pride and speak forcefully against what was going on in our lives and in the lives of our people as Southern Cameroonians. For the first time, I saw one of our leaders who wasn't begging, who wasn't timid in speaking the truth. In fact, after that, I went out to the parking lot and I told Gorji Dinka, I said, for the first time in my life, I can point to you and tell anybody that that's my leader. He spoke English well. He wasn't half educated like the rest have been. Because if you notice, those who stood up and spoke for us were half educated. They couldn't speak English well. They couldn't articulate well. And all of that happened because those who were educated were basically were spending their time pleasing the colonizer to have jobs. And so we are left with the Fonchas and in fact, I think the era of the Fonchas were the last to actually speak up, because after that, there was no leader for us anymore. So I told Gorji Dinka I was very proud. And since then, we did a lot of work. And some of you have seen some of the work, some of the interviews that I've done with Gorji Dinka. When 2017 happened, we both were very happy that we recorded all of that to share with our people. And I think it went a long way to educate our people. The other person that I respected a lot was Professor Carlson, Anyangwe. This is a man who I look at him like a man who, the same as Gorji Dinka, who had the opportunity to play the game that everybody else was playing, play the stomach politics, and live his life and die and then leave us with the prom. But he spoke up, did a lot of writing, traveled a lot. I was even more impressed when we had some projects that we're doing here, and he would send money from Africa. I I've always known that money and home country was one way. We send the money from here back there. But Dr. Carlson Anyangwe actually sent us money, and I'm not talking small money. It wasn't small change. He sent it. Now that's a patriot who wherever the struggle was, he would show up. He would educate. He would clarify.
In all my travels, I've met a group of people. Some of them are very pessimistic. Some say, to use our own master, it is a distance so we win and so. My answer has always been simple. Where there is a beginning, there is always an end. Where there is a beginning, there is always an end. In those good old days when the British colonized us, I remember they used to make us sing in the Empire Day that the British Empire shall never perish. And we kept on singing those things. It didn't take long, the British Empire perished. So where there is a beginning, there is always an end. There can be no beginning without an end. Our country, our homeland, has suffered a triple colonization. The Germans visited us, stayed there for some time. Their colonialism ended. The English, in league with the international community, took over. It ended. The French league with la République de Cameroon have taken over since then. I think it would be a self-deception for them to believe that their colonialism will endure to the end of time. Because it cannot. So there's bound to be an end.
He would do anything. He would sleep anywhere for this struggle. I respect him a lot. Then another person who I had a lot of respect for was Barrister Harmony Bobga Mouton. I saw him on Equinox, and he laid the argument. He challenged La République, challenged their colonization of our people. He challenged them publicly on television in a way that I'm like, wow, this is another Fru Ndi moment. You know what I mean by a Fru Ndi moment.
Say that in English. No, we are that. What are we ready to negotiate?
Yes.
What we are ready to negotiate is that there should be a recognition that the common law is not a recent invention. It is an acquired right that we came into the experiment of a union, because the experiment is still on. It's not conclusive. And we have lived a situation where this experiment is inconclusive because they want to render our own values completely extinct. And we have seen that when you are not organized to protect your own will disappear. That is why we say we have, not that we need, but we have created, and it's a no-return journey. We have created a common law bar that remains an integral part of the national bar. If the civil law lawyers were complaining about some problem with civil law, and they came up with a civil law bar, there would not be an issue. But one of the things I want us to understand here, if you listen to the language of people from the South, is come, let's talk. They are sitting on a high horse and inviting the low people to come. Let me tell you, you need to climb down that horse and let sit on the carpet and talk at the same level. It is not a specialty only for politicians. We lawyers also do it. I've done conflict transformation, and I have carried out conflict profiling in this country. I confirm what my brother says. When it is a lawyer talking, they will say, don't go into politics. When Kawala goes out with her party to campaign that there is a problem in this country, we need to revise the way we are functioning. They arrest her and the people who are with her and lock up. That is a politician. So do not have a pretense of saying people should not talk politics. Every human being, man is a political being. And let me give you one last word, because you may not give me. You may not give me again.
Exactement.
It should be understood. It should be understood by whoever that if you continue to insist that we don't discuss federalism, we shall move not to secession, to restoration. To restore the state of Southern Cameroon. I say it clear because I am a lawyer. I am not going to the street to go and march and destroy things. But I have put a matter in the Constitutional Council. Let the Constitutional Council decide it. If we are not satisfied, we will go to the international fora to which Cameroon is a member. And it will be discussed there. Let us stop this nonsense of patronizing people and making Southern Cameroonians the lesser citizens of this country, because that structural provocation will not continue.
Merci pour l'exercice de la liberté.
And since then, to be honest with you, when I came back at that time, because you're talking right now in 2016, 2017, people were talking of SCNC here, and I'm like, I don't want to hear of NCNC. There is something happening on the ground. We need to support the lawyers. And this was coming from a long history of looking for relationships on the ground. And the people who showed up were people who wanted to be funded abroad. They wanted to be funded. And so sometimes you were a little confused whether are these people using the struggle of the people of Southern Cameroon to make money, or were they really about the struggle? I also read where lawyer Bobga had written that they don't want any support from abroad, because they said any money that comes from abroad would create division in their ranks, and the fight would be about the money and not the struggle anymore. I was very impressed I was so impressed when I heard that, because the history was that you would see groups of form, and when money came from abroad to support them, shortly after you see another member of that group say, "Oh, I have formed my own group now. Send us money. I am the leader of my group now. Oh, the other guy who you talked to, he was a leader, but you know, I am my own leader now. I have my own group." So when I heard lawyer Boga say, we don't want money from abroad, and like, these are the ultimate allies that the activists abroad who are in the diaspora have been looking for on the ground. People who had the education, they understand the system, they can foot their own bills, and they're willing to fight. So that's where lawyer Boga became one of my heroes. I will add Barrister Agbor Balla. And I'll tell you, in that whole conversation, I used to listen to Agbor Balla on television too, but I didn't see the anger and the strong pronunciations which I saw with Barrister Bobga. So I noticed Barrister Bobga, Agbor Balla, but he did not leave an impression with me like Bobga did. But I tell you, when I was impressed, and Agbor Balla became one of my heroes. It was when I listened to that New Year's speech that he gave. I think that was 2000, I can't remember, 2016 or 2017, as the leader of the consortium. Amazing speech. He defined our problems and all the games they've been playing with us in order to subdue us, in order to make us second-class citizens in our own country. Actually, third-class citizens, because in La République, Francophones are actually the second-class citizen in the French Empire, because the French citizens in Cameroon are the ultimate citizens. They don't pay taxes. They get everything they want. They import without. They don't pay anything. They just come and go as they want. So the Francophones are second-class citizens, and we were third-class citizens, living in the colony of the colony. And Agbor Balla, in that speech, nailed it. Even till today, when he started talking about what was that thing he said? He talked about I've forgotten how he framed it, but he talked about us having independence or internal self-determination. When he started talking about internal self-determination, I knew that was not. I knew having gone to jail, he had to reach some compromises to come out. Especially if he wanted to remain in Cameroon, he had to start talking about like that. Even though he says he's a federalist, and no, you don't come and define what you define in that speech, and then go back to say you're a federalist. Then you're not real. But I know he's smarter than that, and so he remains my hero. But he's being expedient in his pronouncement now because he wants to continue living in the place. That's my conclusion. I could be wrong, but he remains an important person in our struggle, and I respect him a lot because he contributed even in that single definition of our problems. Now I want to talk about Cho Ayaba and Ben Wana. Cho Ayaba and Ben Wana, I respect them. The respect I have for them, I need to define this very carefully. But these were two people who, when we were talking about our problems, and there were all these arguments between SCNC and Ambazonia going on in the United States, and these two were feuding, and we were in there in the 90s and early 2000s. There were always these two guys who used to come on our forums and write from Germany. They came now and then, but they used to speak clearly. They used to speak very clearly. And I took note of that. Because they were speaking the language of fighting for our liberation the way men do. The way human beings who have been subjugated do. And so I was with them. Then, obviously, Ben Wana moved to the United States. Respected him. Where I really started finding problems with the talk and the doing, or with the talk and the strategy, was that these guys haven't lived in the system and rebelled against it, understood our problems very well. They know how to articulate it. But when it came to fighting the system, that's when there was a lot of naivety. But it seemed to me that they became the Southern Cameroon's Youth League by rebelling against the SCNC. And so their Southern Cameroon Youth League came out of rebellion. And obviously you cannot rebel without posturing. And I see that posturing carrying on until today. But still with that language that one defines our problem really well, but when it came to the execution, there was a lot of naivety, there's a lot of posturing, and it's almost like deceiving. Because these were people who came out and were out of the University of Boya where they had their problems, and they talked about fighting the system when there was really no way to fight the system the way they were talking about. And it's been the same till today. And so in my whole knowing them, there was a lot of marketing going on. There's a lot of blowing up of little things, like if there was a flag that was planted in Boya, it became like a victory. And then all this thing about taking ownership of things that they did not do became part of that whole facade. And I took note of that. And so, but we were in spirit in terms of fighting the evil that is in our society, fighting the enemies of our people. And my thing with them was that they did not have the ground connection. All their members on the ground were decimated, or I don't know what members they had, but there was never a victory. And when you talk about strategies that could succeed, no, they're like, no, we're going to take the ground, but there was never a way of taking the ground. And so when 2016 came and there was a groundswell, and the lawyers started talking the way they were doing, I remember having a conversation with Ben that we should support these people. We should support the lawyers. That is the natural ally we should support. He said, no, we again. I'm like, no. Anything short of supporting the lawyers and the teachers and the big C's who have created this groundswell and they're doing a wonderful job will be usurping. And I remember using the word, it will be usurping their powers. It will be usurping their position. It will be challenging them. And we have tried to do what they're doing now on the ground for decades. It didn't succeed. So they have succeeded. All we need to do is support them. That is where we break up. And they became, as far as I'm concerned, part of the problem in our struggle. Now, I want to say something about Sako. I first saw Sako and heard him on a debate show where he was sitting there with Barrister Hamini Bobga and other panelists. Obviously, Bobga is a lawyer. He can articulate very well. They were all doctors. Sako was introduced as a doctor. He was saying the right things and and putting up the arguments that we expect our people to put. But I always had a problem with him with his articulation. And this is so true, because I have always paid attention to people who represent us. And like I say, it's because we have, growing up, I never saw any leadership for us. And so when people are out there in the public, I listen very carefully, and I want to make sure that and I'm very proud when they do good work for us, because they're not only representing themselves, they're representing all of us. And so the only little thing that I took note of was that he wasn't articulating very well or as smoothly as I expected. And I wasn't, so that's all I noticed. And then he started his Dr. Common Sense. I didn't used to listen to him very well, because I was busy doing my own thing. Then they appointed him. Then obviously Seseko and the rest were picked up. The people that Seseko appointed in his cabinet, I didn't pay attention. I didn't know these people. And I was already not paying attention because I thought the whole thing was being lost. And the thing, for me, it was being lost right from when Bo Herbert came and talked about forming a government and prime ministers. Look, that whole thing rubbed me the wrong way. It rubbed me totally the wrong way, because Gorji Dinka had formed a government. SCNC USA had formed a government. The SCYL had formed a government. When we talk of the IG, the SCYL were the first to form an IG, an interim government. I know very well because I was part of it. And then after that, there was another government called Restoration Government at the time, led by Carlson Anyangwe. And so that idea of government was just a joke. A joke. I was looking for a movement where we start actually. One of the things that I believe, and I've already said that, but I will say it again. One of the things that I believe is that we are very intelligent people, we are very resourceful, and we can take these people at an intelligent level and we will win. Let them, but we need to be realistic. We take what we have and we can do something with it, but we have to be realistic. And so when people start coming up with ideas that are bogus or doing things that are more pretentious things, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And so that is where I am with all these people. All the people I have mentioned. Let me finish with Sako. So when Sako ended up becoming the assistant, I think AIP, when Seseko was picked up and he became the man who replaced him, I went with him. I called him and we had great conversations. And I actually started, that was in the early days. And I called one day and we had a good long conversation. And he told me at the time that this thing about fighting La Republique, that he is not about this thing fighting La Republique. I remember him saying that if we kill bees, La Republique can always add more. So us fighting that is not, he does not really buy that, but that he is about economic sabotage. That they are in our country because of what they get. And if we sabotage the economic part of it, will be more successful. And I bought into it. And so when he came on and said, give me 2 million and I will deliver, I totally believed the guy. We even produced a commercial to support my trip to Boya. And reading from the comments, yes, I'm sure it raised a lot of money. I'm very sure about that. Now, talking about that, I want to mention this Anyangwe. I remember after we finished the video and it was playing out there, I talked to a few people who were involved in my trip to Boya, and I wanted to know first what they thought about the commercial and how it is working for the how it's helping the project. When I called this lady, she wanted to know how much I've contributed to my trip to Boya. I said, I can't remember what my response was, but I found that question so out of place. And I remember she taking on Rogers at the time hadn't totally hated the man, or showed his hate for the man to me, and told me how he was an executive of an airlines and all of that, and that he's only interested in talking to people who give money. That's what I remember about that. But so when I hear some of the stories today, but this is what these are my early. So she's the only person that I've mentioned who I talked to, and the first thing that came to me was, this is not a nice person. This is not a nice person, because some of the greatest contributions in this struggle were not made in dollars and cents. And if you find people who are more concerned about the dollars and cents rather than the people in the struggle who can actually make things happen, know that they have their head in the wrong place. And I think we can see now, looking back, that was a good pointer at the time, that that's the wrong person. Now, so after we did some of that work, we were waiting for the results. I started falling out with Sako when he started throwing out people, making very bad stories about people that I know very well. And I started having a problem with him. And obviously, things only got worse because my trip to Boya money disappeared and all these other things. And then people actually started writing. And then I started reading. Like journalists who are writing that the man is a fraud, his education is fraudulent, he's a 419, he's a con man. And then some of the things that I noticed with him in the early days started making more sense to me. So I just wanted to share my thinking about this because I am frustrated. I think what Mr. Sikot and Mr. Tato are doing, they're putting a marker. And it made me question, why am I in this struggle? And then started questioning, why are other people in this struggle? And I think you should be asking yourself, why are you in this struggle? Are you in this struggle to liberate Ambazonia? Or are you in this struggle to support people or to sabotage the struggle? This is a time when we all should ask ourselves why we are in this struggle. And I stopped to ask myself, partly because I was going to do the piece with these two gentlemen just to show what they're saying. But when I listened to Mr. Sikot speak, he was saying that we all should forget about any other person and be focused on the struggle. When I listened to Tato was saying the same thing. that he has made mistakes. He has supported Sako. He has built him up. But he had to make a U-turn after he realized that he was climbing the wrong tree. For me, I've been in this long enough to know what I want, and sometimes consciously or unconsciously, I just can look through people and I know who is real and who is not real. And if I don't know them, I'll give them a chance. I'll tell you something about Siseko Ayok Tabe. That's the one person again I haven't spoken of. When I first heard about Siseko Ayok Tabe coming into leadership in the struggle, I made a piece, and in that piece I said, I do not want my leader to be introduced to me. And what I meant by that was that I want my leader to be somebody like Gorji Dinka, Professor Carlson, Anyangwe, Mukong, these people that you've known in the struggle. It shouldn't be somebody who just come from the blue and shot and get to the top. And so I resisted Siseko Ayok Tabe. But I also realized that I had no control. I had no control over him being or not being. But I watched the man work. I watched the man work. I listened to him talk. I listened with the poise with which he did things. He came in with a little more compromising and generous in his ways. He came in very generous in his ways that I won't. In fact, I thought they were risky to the struggle. And I can actually say now that they were risky. Because some of the people who came in through him, who were appointed by him, like Sako, have become the monsters in the struggle. But the point I'm trying to make was that he came as a stranger, and I ended up actually liking him because of his performance. So I'm going to round this up by saying that what I'm doing here is talking to myself. And I decided to open the camera because we all need to look inside and say, why did we join the struggle? Did we join the struggle because it's fashionable to join it? Examine yourself. Examine where we are in this struggle and make a decision, because this struggle right now is falling apart. We need to do better. Otherwise, La République, if the French end up remaining in control in our territory, Nazi Germany would look like a playground. It would look like a holiday. Okay? So this is a do or die for our people, not for Sako, not for Choayaba. These are the people who are a problem in the struggle right now. They are the people that we have to decide what to do with them before we can decide how we take on the enemy that owns our land.